In this section, we are going to learn about different array methods like for each, map, filter, sort, find index, every, sum, and reduce. And specifically in this video, we are going to talk about the common pattern that all of these methods uses, also known as callback pattern. And we'll also take a look at for each method. To understand, we have different variables like colors and numbers, which contains collection of different color names and numbers. Let's have a simple use case. What we want to do here is we want to log each color name in console one after another. To do that, we will be using loop because we are repeating our task. So we'll write a for loop where we have a variable I starts from 0. We are checking if I is less than colors.length and we are incrementing the value of I on each loop. Here we are getting access to each color and logging the value of color. If we save this code, refresh it here, we will see the value aqua, black, blue, brown, one after another. That is what we wanted. The next requirement is we don't want to log value one after another. We want to log all of them into a single string. So for that, we'll create a variable called allColors that will start from empty string. And instead of doing console log, we'll just add it to allColors. And just to have a space, we'll add an extra space. And at last, we'll log the value of all colors. And here we can see all the values one after another concatenated within space. So we got what we wanted. What if we want to do the same thing, but this time we want to do it with numbers array? And I know we are going to do a very similar thing. So I'll just copy and paste this whole code. The only thing we need to do is to change all colors to all numbers and colors to numbers. And here color to number. I'll add a comment here just to segregate these two solutions. Now let's refresh this page. Here we can see, here we are seeing the collection of colors, here we are seeing the collection of different numbers. Now let's try to compare these solutions and see what is common and what is the thing that is changing. In our previous example, we wanted to log each value one after another. In this example, we wanted to log each numbers one after another. So we are doing the similar thing here. The only thing changing is on line number 40 and line number 29. So we are repeating a lot of code here. And whenever we are repeating a lot of code, how do we fix it? To fix repetition, how about writing a function to fix our issue? So what this section is doing is it is giving us access to each element, and here we are doing some kind of operation on each element. So I'll call this function for each element. And to get access to each element, we will need access to an array. So I'll get access to an array. What do we need to do is I'll just copy paste this thing from here and paste it here. So this was the common thing that we were doing. And here instead of colors, we'll change it to array. And here we are getting access to each element. So I'll call it element. What do we need to do with each element? Here we need to add it to all colors variable, and here we need to add it to all numbers variable. So we are doing different things to different elements. So how can we pass this instruction inside this function? So the only way you can pass a collection of instruction is by creating a function. So how about I create another function here, and that function is known as for each color. You have to concatenate it, and that color will get access to one color, that is this, and here all I need to do is to add it to colors. So we'll say all colors is equal to all colors plus color, and we are adding extra space here. And we are going to remove this whole code from here because obviously we are repeating ourselves, and here instead of doing that, what we will do is we'll call for each element that we created earlier that accepts an array. The array we want to look for is colors, and for each color all you need to do is pass for each color. So for each color is the function that contains the instruction that you need to perform on each element of the color. So if we are calling it like this, here we will get access to a function. We can call it callback function. And what I need to do, I need to call that callback function with each element one after another. So here for the first time, if you look at it, it will be aqua, and this CB function that for now is for each color function will get access to color, and here we are adding that element at the last. Let's see if it is working or not. So we'll save this, refresh it here, and we can see the output remained the same because it is working properly. What if I want to do the same thing? Because the reason we created this function is to remove the duplication of code. I'll comment it and replace it with just for each. So here, instead of colors, we are passing numbers. And instead of for each color, we'll create another function called for each number. And what it needs to do is I'll just copy things from here. It will get access to a number. I'll call it num and paste it here. Now for each element, I need to pass an array. Along with that, I also need to pass a set of instructions that you need to perform for each element of the array. And that is coming from for each number. So now let's refresh this page and we can see the output remained the same even after we removing this bunch of code from here and removing it from colors element. I'll just move this code down so we can compare these results. Instead of writing this code again and again, we created a different pattern that is also known as callback pattern. For each element allows to run a function that is CB function on each element of the array. And that is exactly what we were doing earlier. So this is how a callback pattern works. Callback pattern is a way where you get access to a callback pattern, and that callback function is getting called with different values. Like here it is element, and we are calling it with different values like colors and numbers. So here we have created a very basic version of for each method. Let's see how we can replace this method use case with a real for each method that is present in every browser. To write this code, how we do it? So first thing you do is to write the name of the array on which you want to perform operations. So colors, and here we'll get access to each method, and one of the method is for each. For each accepts one parameter. That one parameter is a callback function. So I'll just pass this callback function here and remove it from here. Similarly, I'll just copy this, and instead of writing for each element that we created ourselves, we'll write numbers.forEach. And here instead of passing for each color, we'll say for each number. Now let's refresh this. I'll go ahead and comment this code because we don't need it anymore, and refresh it. Here we can see we are getting the same output when we are using for each method also. So here we saw a very basic implementation of for each method. I'll go ahead and delete all of this code so we can start from scratch again and see how we can use it. So colors is an array. I want to get access to each element of the array. So I'll say for each. So here as soon as you say colors.forEach, for each will give you access to each color one after another. And what I want to do, I want to perform some functions. Let's just name the function log. That function will get access to each color, and here I can just say console.log, and I'll just log the value of color. And here I'll pass the value of log here, and what it will do is it will log the value one after another. So here we are saying for each element of this colors array, go ahead and call this function. So this function will be first, it will be called with the first element. And what is the first element? First element is aqua. So log will be called with aqua for the first time. Second time it will be called with the second value, that is black. Third time it will be called with the next value, that is blue. And fourth time it will be called with next, and keep going on with next value: aqua, black, blue, brown, chocolate, coral, crimson, etc. Here you'll get access to color, and you can see the output here. So this is how for each method works. If I have to practice the same thing for the last time, let's just do it on numbers array. So we'll say numbers.forEach, because for each element of this numbers array, I want you to call a function. And this is not the only way of passing a function. You can also pass a function by defining it right here. And because you don't need to give a name to this function, you can just say it like function, And here I will get access to each number, and all I want to do is console.log number. If you refresh the browser, here you will see the access to each number. What if you want to write the same thing, but this time you want to write an arrow function? So I'll say numbers.forEach. For each element of this number array, I will get access to a number, and all I want to do is to console.log that number. Refresh it again, and you can see you are getting the log of numbers multiple times here also. So this is how you can pass inside forEach. This is also another way of passing it inside forEach, and this is how you pass an arrow function inside forEach. ForEach is an array method that accepts a callback function, and this callback function gets called for each element of the array that you applied it on. And one thing to notice is it doesn't return anything. We have learned about every function call always returns a value. So now if I want to say let a is equal to console.log hello, what is the value of a? If you want to guess, the value of a is undefined, is because the job of console log is to log the message hello here, but the function console log doesn't return any value, and that's why it returns undefined. So whenever a function doesn't have a return statement, it always returns undefined. And that is the same case is with forEach. forEach also doesn't return anything. Let's just go and say num return and try accessing that value here. We'll say num return, and the value of num return is undefined. So forEach is an array method that accepts a callback function and applies that callback function on each element of the array and doesn't return anything, and that's why it returns undefined.